talking about a possible arrangement with the Palestinians, and I'm aware of the fact that many Americans and I've heard the president of the United States, Joe Biden, talking about the two-state solution. Many people are already working on it, and I see articles in the New York Times and elsewhere about, everybody's talking about peace. But let's spend a moment to try and understand what is the definition of peace in North America, in Europe, and what is the definition of peace right here in the Middle East. Peace in the Middle East means let's not kill each other. Peace means non-belligerency. Let me give you an example. Israel signed a peace treaty with Egypt, peace, quote unquote, with Egypt. Until this very day, not even one Israeli book was translated into Arabic and distributed in Egypt. Until this very day, decades after we signed peace with the Egyptians, not even one Israeli movie was shown in Egypt. All that while, we showed Egyptian movies on Israeli television every Friday afternoon for decades. Egyptian literature was translated into Hebrew. I studied Egyptian poetry in high school way before we had peace with Egypt. So when you say peace in America, you mean peace between the United States and Canada. When you say peace in the Middle East, you're actually referring to non-belligerency. Big, big, big difference. This is why normalization is required. Normalization is another added layer to the concept of peace. Ariel Sharon used to say that what we are looking for are livable arrangements. That was his definition of peace. Okay, so let's agree, first of all, not to kill each other. That's peace. But let's also form some sort of a livable arrangement, an arrangement that will allow both of us to live side by side without killing each other. I don't want you to be my friend. I don't want you to love me. I don't expect you to like me. Let's just not kill each other. That's peace in the Middle East. That's not peace between the US and Canada. That's not peace between the UK and, I don't know, between Italy and France. Now, the future Israeli-Palestinian arrangement that some people refer to as a two-state solution would have to require the following elements. The first is everybody agrees, post 10/7, that whatever entity the Palestinians will have, which could be described as, let's say, self-rule, because, again, Israelis will not accept it, not after 10/7. So it will have to be demilitarized. What does it mean? They will not allow to have an army. They will not have a navy. They will not have an air force. They will not have commando units like Hamas had and deployed on 10/7 and so on. The borders will be controlled by other entities, not by them. In the case of Gaza, more likely Israelis and Egyptians. The internal affairs of Gaza, assuming, again, that Hamas rule ends at one point and Hamas leadership is out, whether by expulsion or other ways, someone will have to get involved with the internal affairs of Gaza. Who will govern Gaza? Will it be the heads of the tribes, the head of the family clans? Would it be a pan-Arabist some kind of formula, the Saudis and the Egyptians and others? Will it be an international force? Will Israel will be the dominant force? We don't know all the answers to those questions, but the internal affairs will also have to be, there has to be an external intervention. Even when it comes to the curriculum, we can't allow them to continue to teach their children such anti-Semitic curriculum. This cannot go on. This cannot be allowed post 10/7. That would require massive diplomatic support. Just to give you an example, when the US decided to attack the Yemenis, the Houthis in Yemen, they put together an international coalition of no less than 20 different countries. That's diplomacy. In the meantime, Israel is not even close to that. in terms of the ability to build a robust diplomatic umbrella that is committed to all the things that I'm talking about. That requires such a high level of diplomatic creativity that I don't see happening right now. May happen in the future, but right now it's not happening. And then, of course, comes the question of, do you want the two-state solution or you want a three-state solution? Meaning, do you want Gaza to be an independent entity and the West Bank to be an independent entity, albeit self-ruled, don't call it a state, call it whatever you want to call it, or you want them to be connected? If you want them to be connected, there has to be a physical connection. How do you create a physical connection? It has to be contiguous. How do you do that? Well, one way is to just designate a highway that will link, let's say, Gaza with Hebron, and that's how you have a connection between Gaza and the West Bank. Another way is to create an overpass that will be just for Palestinian vehicles. Another way is to create a tunnel. But it is possible. Those things were discussed years ago within the framework of the Oslo Accords, within the framework of other peace negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians. And lastly, someone will have to pick up the tab. Who's going to pay for this? We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars to rebuild a Palestinian society. And make no mistake, Israelis don't think that the Palestinian society will emerge out of such a plan, such a Marshall Plan, like the German society or like the Japanese society. The German society, if you think about it, and I know there are many people here on the call or second generation and in some cases even survivors, what happened in Germany is remarkable. Germany is the country that was responsible to the two biggest calamities in the 20th century, World War I, World War II. During World War II, they were chiefly responsible for the killing of tens of millions of people, for the annihilation of 1/3 of our people, the Jewish people. Perhaps the worst case of pre-civilizational behavior in the history of humankind, presented by Germany in the 20th century. Brutality, hatred, ignorance, anti-Semitism, racism, fascism, bigotry, the industrial killing of Jews and gays and communists and handicapped people. Unbelievable what happened in Germany. Yet, the Americans came to this brutal, violent society that produced Nazism and turned it into an open, pluralistic, democratic, pacifistic society. How did that happen? Incredible achievement, perhaps the biggest achievement in the history of American foreign policy. What happened in Germany and Japan post-World War II. Now, Israelis are not naive. This is not going to happen with the Palestinians. This is not going to happen with the Palestinians. And as I said, the best that we can aspire for, and I hope that the Americans and the Canadians and the British and the Germans are understanding this. The best that we can hope for is a livable arrangement. Let's not kill each other and find a way to be productive, have a normal life, side by side.